So Melusine is interesting because when she enters her Sing stance, she isn't able to move. She is able to attack. And then when she leaves that, she's able to move, but she's no longer able to attack. So she's a little bit of an interesting one to adjust to. She's very unique in that sense. Her attack damage is cool because it can cleave through enemies. There's a lot of text that we've learned from Straight Arrow about how to optimize her. Her power, splatter, it's a pretty short cooldown, and it feels a lot better than, say, Scarlet's because there's no accumulating of combo points. So you can spam this ability. It's going to work really well with things like Baylor's Eye. Torrent. Torrent is probably my least favorite, but it's still good. You just have to be more careful about where you position when you use it. And now that we know that you can use waterlogging with Torrent to charge up an attack before you deliver a razor tail or something, she can have really strong attack builds. And that's something that I really didn't think was a thing. But again, we learned from the rest of the community, and Straight Arrow has demonstrated some really impressive attack builds based around this concept. And then her dive. Dive is cool because it's her iframes and it's on a defense. Again, really good for Baylor's Eye things. It has a lot of upgrades that'll give it vulnerability. It can get you out of pretty much any situation. It's a long iframe too. Melusine, I have her here. There's a strongest character in the game on my list with a question mark. So the thing is, Melusine's ceiling, you look at the ceilings in the game, you got characters like Aladdin who have a crazy, crazy ceiling. The thing that's really cool about Melusine is her ceiling is still good, but her risk taking is very low compared to a lot of the other characters. She has a lot of iframes. She doesn't have to take a lot of risks because she's ranged. She also has Sea Dance as one of her level 1 abilities, which is more iframes. They released something maybe 6 or 7 months ago, and they talked about characters who have the highest average clear rates. I think Melusine and Geppetto are both up on that, and it's because the kit is so synergistic. It also might just be that there are a couple really, really strong Melusines that are carrying it for everyone else, but Melusine is very, very consistent. She has a lot of heals in her kits. What else did you say about her, Ace?
I really, really like her kit. The one thing I don't like, from my perspective, is Sea Dance is pretty much the take every time starting talent. And there's basically 2 reasons for this. One is it's a heal. The next is because you have to be still when you attack with her, it's really hard to get your special off because that's a pretty long animation lock. And I find that there's a lot of camps. She's good at taking on a lot of camps. I was doing a challenge run with Deep Beat. Deep Beat, you don't get to, move with Sea Dance. A lot of times you start attacking and all of these enemies will attack you. You have to bait attacks really well with her. Like bait all the attacks, dodge to the side, and then start attacking. But there's a lot of times where you can only get like 1 or 2 attacks off before you need to move. What Sea Dance does for you is you can instantly enter your Sing stance. All the enemies are about to attack you. Sea Dance somewhere else, now you can spam all the attacks you need. You can use your power, you can use your special, you can attack a few times. And Sea Dance synergizes with so many of her talents. Like there's Shimmering Scales where you get more armor. There's Submergent Attack where you get more attack damage the longer you're in Sing stance, like the more hits you have. And one of the biggest issues I have is Deep Beat. For every 4 attacks that hit an enemy, generate a blast around that deals 100% of attacks damage. The counter resets when exiting Sing stance. That so badly wants to be paired with Sea Dance because you trigger so much more often that I really, really wish, I had said it in the video, I wish that they pick a new talent from her pool and make it the starting talent. The tough thing about that is there's not a lot of talents that you want to move there. I was thinking maybe Razor Tail. Some people would probably be really mad if that happened. I was thinking also Freezing Splash, where power applies chilled and gains increased range, because that, that kind of pushes a power build identity from your start. Because I like Deep Beat as a concept. In co-op, it's fine. You can proc Deep Beat a whole bunch. But I feel like it's a lot harder to pull off. Like the reward of it is not nearly as beneficial as it is to just take Sing stance.
I think that they were trying to create 2 styles with Melusine, one where that you stay in Sing stance and one where you kite around more, because you have Enduring Wisp, right? But in practice, that's not what we're seeing. We see that it's really valuable to keep Sing stance up to have all these other talents, because there's 3 or 4 that all build off of just being in Sing stance. So I kind of agree. I honestly haven't played a ton of Melusine, so I'm not the most qualified to make recommendations here, but she does have a lot of incentive right now to go into Sing stance, use Sea Dance to move around, get Shimmering Scales value, everything else. It does feel a little bit like you're locked on rails.
Yeah, and one thing I'll actually say with Deep Beat is I always thought Deep Beat was kind of trash because I felt like on average average in solo, I would get about 3 attacks off before I had to move. And I'm like, dang, I want to be taking damage to the 4th attack. And then the challenge runs I'm doing, I can't really afford to take that damage. One thing that's really nice though, and kind of made the build go insane, and I very much reevaluated it after, was I got waterlogging second, and then I got backwash, which helps to add more waves, 3 additional waves to help stack waterlogging. And then I got submerging attack. Waterlogging is buffing my attack. Backwash is buffing waterlogging and how many charges I have. And submerging attack is buffing my attack every time I land an attack. By the time I get deep beat off, deep beat is doing 100% of your attack's damage, and you get to upgrade that. If you have waterlogging with a bunch of stacks and submerging attack trigger a deep beat, that was actually kind of insane damage, and I was blown away. Again, I have everything corrupted. I was blown away at how well this was doing. That was by far like the best starting combo I think I've ever had on Melusine, besides just taking Final Burst. So I was really impressed with deep beat and that, and I have a funny thing of like I make a tier list on character talents, and I say something's trash or it's not that good, and then I go play with it and I'm like, I love it. I'm like, why did I play with this again? And then I really like her defense, because how they built her defense is it's an enabler for every other build. She has power dive, she has the vulnerable, she has water communion, which enables a special, and then she has razor tail to help enable attack. I love how they built her defense. And then water bubble, one of her best talents, just lets you negate any source of damage, doesn't matter how much damage. It helps to have it up all the time, but it also helps in those deep beat builds, because now you can more safely get that 4th attack off.
Have you ever tested like against a red AoE slam? Does the slam go through it?
I've been too scared. I actually I should test that.
Because if it does, then it's like the only thing that blocks those in the game now. It seems like it would be too broken if it did.
I don't know. It actually might. That would be really cool to test. One other thing with her is she has some of the best charge spam. There are some builds with Melusine. If you have a bunch of power charges and power dives and then say water communion, you can just spam these charges when an enemy is about to attack you, power dive into them, you go intangible, move away, get the bonus damage from water communion, hit them with this big special, and just like reset that over and over. I've had runs with Melusine where I don't think enemies even have a chance to get an attack off on me because of how many charges and how much spam and how much like her power moves enemies, her special moves enemies. Again, if you add power dive, her defense now moves enemies. You just push enemies around so much.
Final Burst as well for that. She's got probably the most CC in a kit of a character in the game. I guess that Geppetto, you can make an argument that with all of his dummies spread around, that's controlling a lot of the map as well. But Melusine's ability to knock down enemies and push them around and then distance herself from them again, it's really something else. It's very strong.
And then similar to Carmilla, she has 2 ultimates that are actually good. She has Water Bomb, which is really good for AoE camp clears. Her other one also is as well, but Wisp Ballet is really good for taking on bosses. It does a lot of damage. I think at base, like if you have no damage at all and you just use Wisp Ballet on the first boss after killing all the tentacles, I think you do 60%, somewhere between like 50 and 60%. It's a kind of insane amount of damage. So really, really good boss damage. And then all the ultimate upgrades for the most part are pretty good. Vortex Bomb holds enemies in and deals damage. Crescendo adds more Wisp. Healing Blast is great in co-op and is basically a full heal. And then Overtone Singing sounds pretty bad, and it kind of is bad when you have Crescendo, but I did it in the Deep Beat build, and it can't trigger Deep Beat, which would be really cool if it could, but it does seem to get the benefits from Submergent Attack, even though it is ultimate, because there's like a visual glow when you start to get Submergent Attack built up that Overtone Singing also got.
Man, I am so scared of the math that I'm going to have to do eventually when I'm trying to deep dive Melusine's kit, because there's a lot going on here. She's got a lot of interconnectivity between her talents and her base kit. Another cool thing, by the way, about Wisp Ballet is that the wisps do count towards Black Lotus. You can do some cool stuff. You know, she sustains very well. Even with Shimmering Scales on top of that, she can really look into the soul of a target if she's got the build for it. Just no fear. That's going to be less effective, and she already has so many iframes, it feels kind of silly to sit there and take stuff. But at the same time, it's interesting that she even has the option.
I agree. She's, I think, probably, again, get rid of like Aladdin infinite scaling. I think she's probably the most consistently good character.
Agreed.